What's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. DK Show up on the air on your radio dials of 105.1 FM and 790 AM. Also available online, sportstalk1051.com. Stream it up over there. You can also stream it on the app, your Google and Alexa home devices. And the video stream, which is up and rolling on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. But happy Tuesday, everybody. It is a new segment Tuesday with Ray's Place. Who cut the mustard and who didn't cut the mustard Tuesday? If you're not familiar with the phrase of who cut the mustard, it's essentially, I mean, it's an old school kind of phrase there. But, those we're kind of putting a sports spin on it. It's kind of like, studs and duds, if you will. But make your picks who, kind of guess is kind of like above expectations or who's like, you know, looking pretty good right now and maybe who didn't cut the mustard, who's a little bit down. So essentially it's like studs and duds, right? It's like studs and duds. So we're switching things up here, keeping it fresh and all that good stuff, but it is a raised place. Who cuts and didn't cut the mustard Tuesday. We're going to continue with a little grind my gears Tuesday as well. So got a couple things you can start to hit us up on that Shoe Doctor's bullpen line that is always rolling with the text 24/7 715-830-1912. What else do we got on the game plan for us this morning? Brewers continuing to make some moves in the pitching department. Brewers signing starting pitcher Jacob Junis to a one-year deal worth up to $7 million. Junis pitched for the San Francisco Giants last year, where he had a record of 4-3 with a 3.87 ERA. So the Brewers looking to add some more depth. He's also a versatile pitcher that you could play around with, maybe coming out of the bullpen and giving you some starts over there too. But adding another starter to the mix, along with Hall, with that trade that they got in return with Corbin Burns. But DL Hall saying the other day that the team has told him they expect him to be a starter. They're going to prepare him for a starting role for this season. Brewers also trading a pitcher, Ethan Small, who we'd seen in the last year or so, couple of years, kind of, some spot starts, some appearances in the major league level. But the former first-round pick in the 2019 draft traded to the San Francisco Giants. So Brewers adding a pitcher via free agency who last pitched for the Giants and trading one of their pitchers to the Giants in exchange for some cash. So we've got some baseball talk coming at you as we are getting closer and closer to the start of spring training. With pitchers and catchers reporting. So we'll get to that a little bit later on here this morning. Bucks are also back in action tonight as they wrap up their 5-game road trip. Won't get any easier though, as the Bucks will be taking on the Phoenix Suns. The Bucks currently 1-3 on this road trip, and have now fallen to third in the Eastern Conference standings. Cleveland Cavaliers holding the slight advantage right now in terms of win percentage and such. So, but we'll chat some hoops, taking a look at this game before the Bucks return home for a game on Thursday against the Minnesota Timberwolves. So the Bucks on the road these last 5 games, they'll be at home for the next 4. T-Wolves Thursday, Charlotte Friday, Denver next Monday, and then Miami on Tuesday. We are just a couple of days away from the NBA trading deadline right now. Still not any movement surrounding the Bucks. You still got some rumors and you still got some rumblings out there. But one of the latest reports out there, per Yahoo Sports, is Jake Fisher. The Bucks have been aggressive in the trade market to get some pieces. Fisher also saying after switching head coaches midseason, the Bucks remain committed to improving their roster, quote, shopping hard for help, as described one league source with knowledge of the situation. Another name is Delon Wright from the Washington Wizards. He's averaging 4.4 points per game, 15 minutes off the bench. Again, a little defensive presence over there. But also, according to Fisher, Milwaukee would need to include big man Bobby Portis in a deal to land a big name player. Milwaukee, quote, has limited options of outgoing packages with a number 35 pick. Pat Connaughton campaign as the Bucks' most likely outgoing scenario, sources said, and Bobby Portis would need to be included for Milwaukee to chase a bigger salary player like Murray, Bruce Brown, or Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins, now throw that name potentially in there. All right. So just a couple days away, baby. Just a couple days away from the trade deadline. Will the Milwaukee Bucks make a move? Sticking with hoops, the latest AP poll rankings coming out. Badgers falling to number 11, which actually I thought maybe they'd fall back down to 13, but just outside the top 10, as I think a lot of us expected at that point. But the Badgers falling to number 11. Marquette moving up a couple spots to number 7. But as has been the theme for college hoops throughout this entire season, another upset last night. Number 4, Kansas, falling to Kansas State. Another upset. Feels like every time the new rankings come out in college basketball, it's like right after that, the games after that, day after that, we've got top 5 upsets across the board. So Kansas falling again, dropping to 18-5 on the season. So yeah, I'm sure they'll move down a little bit there. But North Carolina, even with that loss, well, they stayed at 3. The top 3 staying the same. Top 3 staying the same. UConn, Purdue, North Carolina. Kansas did move up 4 spots to number 4, but they're probably going to go down a little bit more. Houston with a loss even, just dropping down 1 spot. Tennessee dropping down 1 spot. Marquette moving up 2. Arizona moving up 3 to number 8. Duke falling a couple to number 9. Illinois 1 spot ahead of Wisconsin. They're at number 10. They moved up 4 spots. When you look at the Big Ten, just 3 teams represent in the top 25, and all 3 are in the top 11. Something we kind of talked a little bit about yesterday. You got Purdue, then there's a gap. You got Wisconsin and Illinois, then a little bit of a bigger gap with the rest of the teams. The next closest team out of the Big Ten was Michigan State, and they only got 1 vote. They only got 1 vote in the AP poll. Got a few more in the coaches poll, but that's about it. So next up for Wisconsin, they've got Michigan coming up tomorrow. Marquette, meanwhile, they got a game against St. John's coming up on the 10th on Saturday. So Super Bowl week continues as well. We had the good old media night last night, but we're getting closer to kickoff for that. You can start to make your Super Bowl picks by visiting sportstalk1051.com and clicking on that fan cave tab over there. You can start to make your picks. We also got some Bucks games on there, including that Bucks and T-Wolves game on Thursday. So I know I said I usually try to keep games to Fridays and the weekends and such, but with the Bucks and T-Wolves, we gotta add that one on there. So we put that one up there too. So, but speaking of football, the Packers making some moves with their coaching staff, bringing in defensive line coach Vince Ogobase. Vince Ogobase coming over from BC, Boston College, had spent some time with the 49ers with their defense coordinator when he was over there too. But Jerry Montgomery is going to the Patriots. So the Packers bringing in a new defensive line coach. They're going to be looking for a new inside linebackers coach. Kirk Olivati is going to be moving on, and they're going to be looking for a new corner back coach as well. They got a defensive backs coach, Ryan Downard, who is staying. He's going to be staying, but sounds like possibly looking for a new corner coach. So, yes, it seems like the defensive coordinator is having some say or having some input on the defensive coaches that he would like to bring with him over there to Green Bay. So, speaking of the pack too, let's you know, we finished up our consulting series and such. But when you look at the impending free agents for the pack, you got Yosh Nijman, you got Keyshawn Nixon, you got Darnell Savage, you got A.J. Dillon, you got Eric Wilson, Josiah DeGuara, Jonathan Owens, John Runyon, uh, heck, even their punter Daniel Whalen, Patrick Taylor, Bo Melton and such. Is there a free agent that you would pound the table for Green Bay to bring back? Is there a free agent? Think they should absolutely one of their own, not just in general, but one of their own that you think they should bring back. Now, Spot Track has a couple of these guys' market values listed to them, and sometimes they're accurate, sometimes I mean, it's all based off. We just takes one team to kind of really fluctuate the numbers here. But for what it's worth, Keyshawn Nixon, they've got as a market value of a 1.7 million, which if that's the case for Keyshawn Nixon, yeah, sign it up for me. AJ Dillon, 3.5 million on a 1-year salary. So they don't have anything. I was kind of curious if they had anything for Darnell, but not yet. But is there one free agent that you're maybe pounding the table for to please bring back for Green Bay? Or are you like, you know, yeah, maybe there's a couple guys on this list that I wouldn't mind having back, but really nothing like that I think is dire need. Like it's like gotta, must, have to sort of thing. So let me know. Hit me up with that text on the Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. Let's get things rolling here this morning, though. We'll get the leadoff going here. We'll talk some baseball. I'll throw in some football chat as well. But hey, you can send me what's grinding your gears and our new Ray's Place segment, Who Cut the Mustard and Who Didn't Cut the Mustard. Anybody who's been to Ray's Place knows about the mustard connection right there. You know what I mean? So you can send those on over. We'll hit up Grind My Gears at about 7:05. And then we'll do the Who Cut the Mustard around 8:05. Oh, and we got RJ Cardinal coming up at about 8:20. Lots to catch up with him, including, the Big Ten and SEC potentially working together, and then all the stuff going on with Badgers. I mean, you've got hoops, you've got hockey, but also Badger wrestling and such. So tons to catch up on with him. RJ will be joining us at about 8:20, 8:25 here this morning. So let's take a quick break here and get things rolling this morning. The leadoff coming up on this Tuesday morning. Quick break, and we'll be back in just a couple minutes. it's tax season, so while you may be a little frustrated trying to track down your W-2s and whether you're going to file yourself or have someone do it for you, I got to have someone do it for me. Shout out to Maddie out there. Think about the light at the end of the tunnel, though, after all this. The return, the tax return, some extra coin in your pocket. Now, what should you do with that extra cash that's burning a hole in your pocket? How about finally changing out that old ratty carpet in your home and getting some new luxurious carpet or vinyl planks from Wisconsin's premier flooring store, Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire? Hey, whatever the style of flooring you're looking for, or maybe you're not sure what style you want yet, the team at Carpet City Flooring Center is waiting to help you find that perfect new floor for your space. So what are you waiting for? Once you get your taxes done, go visit Carpet City Flooring Center right here in Eau Claire at 3109 East Hamilton Avenue and chat with one of their awesome team members. They'll help you finally get that new floor in your home that you have been wanting for a while. And all at the best price in town because they will match or beat the competition. Because if you happen to find a better deal elsewhere, they'll match or beat that competition. No worries there. So, all right, let's get things going here a little bit on the leadoff for us this morning. Let's chat a little baseball to kind of open up things here a little bit. We mentioned the Brewers making a couple of moves in the pitching department last night. Brewers signing Jacob Junis to a one-year deal that could be worth up to $7 million. Junis pitched with the Giants last year, had a record 4-3 with a 3.87 ERA. You had Ethan Small getting traded to the Giants as well, not separate moves over there too. DL Hall also doing an interview saying that the crew plan to use him as a starter right now. So this is kind of all in the heels too. I saw, with the Royals locking up Bobby Witt Jr. to a long-term deal. Saw some Brewers fans kind of, displaying some frustration, maybe a little bit more gasoline to the fire, if you will, after they saw that the Royals, a team like the Royals, another team that doesn't really spend a whole lot of money, but they went out and they locked up their young starting shortstop for the long haul. For the long haul. I'm glad, I don't want to use it as necessarily as, ammunition to go after my teams, whatever, but I'm just glad that we're seeing really good talent stay with smaller market teams and their own teams there. So I'm pumped. I'm happy, I should say, that that Witt Jr. is staying with the Kansas City Royals. Good for Kansas City. Good for those Royals fans over there. 14-year contract extension, though. 14 years. And maybe a little bit similar, but this all comes just a few months before the residents over there vote on whether a stadium sales tax is going to be extended, helping the Royals move out of Kauffman Stadium and to downtown Kansas City by 2028. So, but looking at this Brewers, looking a little bit more at Jacob Junis. Okay, he's 31 years old. Speaking of, he did play a little bit for Kansas City too. But he operated a typical swingman role, both being in the rotation and the bullpen. He appeared in 63 games, 21 of which were starts, 42, do the math, coming out of the bullpen. So he was about average in terms of, if you want to look at some statistics and ERAs, and I mean, baseball's got like a bajillion different ones over there. So this just seems like, a typical Brewers type of signing. And I saw Kurt Hogg, who covers the Brewers on social media, he had posted when, he was looking at potential free agents and such. And let me bring it up. He's like, my thought on Jacob Junis earlier this winter was, quote, this guy has Rays written all over him, which now he's to the Brewers. And you look at Matt Arnold, and where did he come before the Brewers? He is a Tampa Bay Rays guy. That's where he learned his craft. That's where he got a lot of his experience. As Kurt Hogg went on to say, Kurt, Brewers beat reporter for the Journal Sentinel, quote, signing someone like that is generally not a bad idea. Jacob Junis gives the Brewers important depth and an ability to mix and match with their arms a bit more freely. So, with the Brewers and Friday, obviously there was some frustration with the Burns one. I kind of summed it up. It stinks as for me personally, it sucks. It stinks as a fan. But I've learned to yeah, I get it. Yeah, you hate to be in that position. It kind of stinks to be in that position when you have to say, yeah, I get it. Because that's the position of baseball right now. So with, you had Jackson Cheerio signing. You got Reese Hoskins. You trade Corbin Burns. Potentially maybe trading Willie Adames at some point here soon. Who knows at this point? But what are your as we get closer to spring training, and maybe it's still kind of raw with the Corbin Burns thing. But what are your I don't know if expectations is the right word that I'm looking for, but what how do you view this Brewer season? What are you expecting, or are you getting your hopes up for another playoff run? Especially when you look at the Central, and right now the Cubs haven't really done anything. I mean, Bellinger's probably going to come back. Cardinals have signed a couple veteran starters trying to build up that rotation over there. Pirates had a good run in the first half. Reds, mixed in there. I mean, I feel like the NL Central could be a division that could be kind of competitive. Maybe not the best division, but fairly competitive up there. But as this Brewer season as we get closer and closer to pitchers and catchers reporting and spring training, what is your expectations going into the season? So I guess what I'm getting at is when we went into, for example, the Packers season, we asked that expectation. Well, what's your expectation? What are you going to be, kind of focusing on? And a lot of it was, seeing if Jordan Love's the guy, answering that question, gaining some experience with the younger players and hopefully seeing we've got something to work with over there. It was a little bit of a different feel. It was a little bit of, necessarily we went into this previous Packers season, and we didn't have really Super Bowl expectations. I think expectations also change. I'm a big believer that expectations change over the course of a season. But heading into, as we get ready for this Brewers one, what are your initial expectations? Is it similar to Green Bay in a sense that, okay, Jackson Cheerio, want to see that guy, see what we have with him. You see the highlights in Double-A and such, and maybe just for a hot minute in Triple-A. Sal Frelick another year. Bryce Terang, can he make a year two jump? We know the defense, but maybe you're looking for a little bit more offense. Contreras had a good year last year, and maybe with some of these pitchers, okay, we didn't get to see Aaron Ashby last year, but can we see him this year? And can he be a fixture in that or in that rotation? What is your expectation, or what is something that you're going to be focusing on the most when it comes to the Brewers this season? Because I think it is a little bit different. What is it? I mean, I'm still excited for baseball season coming up. I always get excited when we get to opening day and such, and everybody's 0-0, and we overreact to the first game, and whether it's a win or a loss or anything like that. But this has got a little bit of a different feel. Maybe for some, you kind of connect some of the parallels to, or connect the dots similar to what's Green Bay heading into their season this year was. A little bit of an unknown. But what do you think? And I know we got a lot of Brewers fans frustrated right now with whether it's ownership or the front office and that, and I get it. I understand that. I totally get it. But when you look at the product on the field, or when you look at the team, I mean, you're still going to root for the team, right? You still want the team to win. You still want them to make a push for the postseason. And when you look at what the rest of the NL Central has done or not done this offseason, are you still thinking, hey, playoffs? Didn't even mention new manager too, Pat Murphy. I mean, this is the thing. I think we all kind of figured, Ricky Weeks maybe kind of a manager in waiting type of role, kind of getting some on the job training. It's a weird vibe that I don't know if I really know how to describe with this Brewers team right now. It's a weird kind of feeling. Like I feel like they can still win some games. I feel like they can win a bunch of games and be um winning the division. But it's still like it's hard to describe. You know what I mean? It's hard to describe. I feel like they can still win the division. They can still win some games, but there's like you can tell they're still building for the future and trying to be competitive. And I know that's the balancing act that Matt Arnold is talking about and trying to do. So it's kind of weird. How would you describe this Brewer season coming up here? What would you do? Let's take a quick break here. Get some of your thoughts, but hit me up with that text, all right? 715-830-1912. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. In case you haven't heard this morning, Toby Keith passing away at the age of 62, I think, over there, but longtime country music artist. Toby Keith passing away in case you haven't heard. Gotta play a little I Love This Bar in honor of him. Make a lot of good songs in his career there. Let's catch up on some of the texts on the Shoe Doctor's bullpen line this morning. This is from Gregory. Gregory saying, agree with you with the Brewers. It feels like a weird season for them with the lack of movement from some of the teams in the NL Central. Seems like the Brewers could still be in contention, but it definitely took a hit by trading Corbin Burns. They got kind of a weird mixture of veterans and younger players, which does provide some excitement because it gives you a little bit of unknown, kind of like the Packers. Still excited for baseball season. Still love my Brewers. Hopefully, they can surpass some expectations out there. Another text here from Eric. Eric also saying regarding the Brewers, it is a big known heading into this season, which kind of gives you a little bit of maybe some surprise moments like the Packers. Okay, I got another comparison there with the Packers, but definitely it takes the excitement takes a hit with the Corbin Burns trade just before spring training opens. But always root for the crew. Always will root for wins, regardless of who the owner is. Okay. Another texter here. This one is from Adam. Adam is saying with the Brewers that it's definitely frustrating at times to be a Brewers fan, but I've learned to come that it is what it is at this point. Complaining isn't going to do anything about it. As far as this upcoming season, it's a big question mark. I can see this team winning the division, getting to the postseason, or I can see them finishing near the bottom of the division with all their younger talent. They need a little bit like the Packers, where their young talent steps up and plays big roles this year. I would agree with that. I would agree with the younger talent, and it's a little bit different, in terms of guys like Sal Frelick, got some playing time last year. Garrett Mitchell coming back from injury. Joey Weimer, Bryce Terang. We'll see if Jackson Cheerio is going to be on that opening day roster. I mean, I think it's fair to say we are going to see Jackson Cheerio at some point on the active roster for this season. But whether it's going to be opening day or not, uh, I think it will. And I know Matt Arnold and the Brewers have kind of said, not necessarily. I think it will, but nah, could be completely wrong. Brian on the video stream saying, how would I describe this Brewer season? Where to start? It probably started with the loss of Hader that deflated all hopes of the postseason a couple years back. Last year it was a terrible pitching performance in the postseason, but I think this is supposed to say by our relied upon starters. I know we were talking about a rebuild with like Terang, Weimer, Mitchell, Monasterio, Frelick, and now Cheerio, but maybe that is a good thing. Eternal optimist here. Brewers make the playoffs and excite us all, kind of like the Packers this year. Do you see some parallels with this Brewers team? Potentially, a little bit. And is the best outcome for the Brewers kind of like how the Packers went about this season? Ups and downs. It was like an EKG, right? Highs and lows of the season. But at the end, they were playing at their right time, rode that momentum into the postseason, close to advancing again in the postseason. Is that the best outcome for the Brewers, you think, this year? Dave with a good point. My question for Brewers management is: we get great pitching only to have lackluster batting, and vice versa, repeat and rinse. Yeah, it always seems like whenever they've got a really good offense, maybe it's their pitching that suffers. Was that the 2018 season? Like Yoli Chassin was their number one starter. No offense to Yoli Chassin. And then the last couple of years, it was Freddie Peralta, Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, and then it was the hitting that kind of suffered. It wasn't, to steal a term from football, it wasn't complimentary baseball. When we talk about complimentary football with offense and defense, it kind of wasn't complimentary baseball for the last few seasons here for the Brewers. A couple more messages to get to here. We got this is from Chad. Chad saying, this Brewer season coming up, it's a big unknown for me, which for me personally provides some excitement. Um, Especially with these younger players. I'm looking for year two jumps from some of the guys like Sal Frelick and Joey Weimer, and excited to see if Jackson Cheerio is the real deal. That's kind of what I look forward to with this upcoming season, is to potentially see the new face of the franchise. Because if he goes out there and he lights it up, the Brewers did get a bargain there. I hope he surpasses the expectation that has been put out there for him. Another text. This is from Doug. Doug is also saying regarding the Brewers season coming up here. Uh, Kind of indifferent on the Brewers season right now. Still bummed about Corbin Burns. He was one of my favorite players personally, but at the same time, excuse me, I'm excited about some of the youth movement coming aboard, especially Jackson Cheerio. So I don't really have any expectations for this season coming in. I'm just going to enjoy some baseball and hopefully a lot of wins, more than what maybe I'm expecting. All right. So keep your thoughts coming. Big thanks for everybody who's kind of been texting in already so far. 715-830-1912. Got a couple of Packer ones here we'll get to a little bit later on when we get to maybe some football and Packers chat over there. But yeah, with the Brewers, it's kind of, maybe it is kind of like the Packers, where I'm coming into the season and not having a ton of expectations. And that's not necessarily, I don't think, a bad thing. I'm coming in and kind of seeing, all right, let's see what we got with some of these younger dudes. There's an opportunity though to still, I think, in the division, win it, win this division. Why can't the Brewers kind of be maybe like the Diamondbacks last year? Can they take a similar approach to that? Can they be a team like that? How many times have we seen that in baseball? But that's kind of where I'm at with this team. I'm going to go in with an open mind. I'm going to go in, be excited. I don't think think we kind of answered that question about, are we putting all the chips into the table and really trying to go for it? That's out the window. We know that's not the case. But yeah, it's a changing of the guards right now when it comes to Milwaukee here a little bit. I think for me, the big thing I'm excited about, I want to see Jackson Cheerio on the main stage and hopefully goes out there and plays incredibly well. I know it's putting a lot on his shoulders for a guy who hasn't made his major league debut yet. But man, would it be so awesome if he came out there and just started to light it up at AmFam Field right away. If he was just like, you could tell, like, okay, that's going to be a dude. That's going to be a dude right away. Oh, would that would be kind of maybe a little bit similar to how Jordan Love finished out the second half of this season. It's like, okay, yeah, that's a dude. Yeah, they figured that one out. They got that right. I mean, because for the longest time we've been hearing about Jackson Cheerio, guy in single A, minor leagues. You had the Brewers, doing like some social media stuff and videos of him, and it's like, man, when was the last prospect to be highly touted this much? Like the Brewers have with Jackson Cheerio. So I don't know. We'll get back to some of your thoughts coming up here a little bit later on. Don't forget, I'm looking for what's grinding your gears. We're gonna hit up grind my gears. I got two things, and two things related to the NFL. I got two things that's grinding my gears related to the NFL. We're gonna get to that at 7:05, and then the new race play segments. Who cut the mustard and who didn't cut the mustard? It's an old phrase. It's kind of like a studs and duds sort of thing. So 8:05, hit me up with your picks. All right, let's have some fun with this. Hit me up with your picks at that. We'll get to that before we hit chat up with RJ Cardinal at about 8:20 this morning. See if we get RJ on a little bit earlier because there's a lot that I want to hit up on with him. We got the whole Big Ten SEC thing, and not only Badger hoops and hockey, but RJ's a big wrestler guy. We got to talk about Badger wrestling over there too. So we'll hit up RJ over there too. We'll get to some Packers chat coming up in the second hour as well. Been asking, who do you think, if there was one free agent, pending free agent that the Packers currently have, not a free agent from another team, but a free agent that is currently a Packer, and then when the new league year happens, is going to be a free agent. Is there one that you're banging the table for? You've got an A.J. Dillon. You've got a Josh Nijman. You've got a Keyshawn Nixon. You got a Darnell Savage. You've got Bo Melton is even on there, I believe. He might be a restricted free agent. I'll have to double check that one there just because of years of service. But, those guys. Or maybe you are of the opinion that, hey, there really isn't a guy that I think is make or break that I'm really stuck to. So, no, I don't have a guy that I'm really banging the table for. So, let me know. Hit me up with that. Some interesting picks right now. I'll tell you, the leader is an offensive player. To give you a little bit of a hint right now. So, I'll tell you who that is coming up in the next hour. A couple more texts regarding the Brewers. We got Dave chiming in. Let's enjoy Bob Uecker and the Brewers on the radio. May Milwaukee give him a championship before his retirement. Here, Dave. I agree with you. C-Bomb saying, I'm not going to jump off the Brewers bandwagon. A couple of years ago, we had no expectations. They made the playoffs. Losing Burns sucks, but his ERA has climbed each year since 2020. He wasn't awesome at the end of the year. Maybe they know something. I'm optimistic. This team should be fun to watch. Another texture here, no name. So no name texture. The thing I'm most excited about this year when it comes to the Brewers is to see what they have with this kid, Jackson. Been hearing about him, it seems like, for the last 10 years. So I'm excited to see him on the field and hopefully will be the next great Brewer for the long term. Then one more text with the Brewers coming in here saying, I don't really have a lot of expectations heading into this Brewer season, and that's okay. Just going to enjoy the games and not have the stress of, having one more year with the current team to try to get a championship. I'm heading into the season with a little less stress, to be honest with you, similar to how I was with the Packers until the Packers made it to the postseason. Then the stress came back. A good stress, though. Yeah, I was on that same boat with Green Bay, man. I was completely on that once they started to get in that playoff chase and getting into postseason. That stress came back 100%. I know exactly what you're talking about. I know there's maybe not as a real thing as good stress, but yep, I was in the same boat as you. Kind of went in the season like, okay, I'm going to take the lumps. But then as soon as they started to compete for playoffs and got into the postseason and made it close, it was like that stress never, ever, ever left. Not even close. All right. Morg should be popping in here any minute. So, keep your Brewers thoughts coming. Some good stuff. I appreciate these comments. So keep them coming. We'll get back to some more baseball talk coming up a little bit later on. We've got Packers chat, football chat coming up in the next hour, including we'll kick it off with a little grind my gears. By the way, I saw the spring training hats coming out here. If you're into that, nah. I mean, the Brewers one, it's nothing really totally out there. So, yeah. But anyways, we'll hit up some football chats coming up in the next hour. The one free agent you are banging the table for. We'll finish up the first hour with Morgs. Good morning.
Did your parents ever give you any bit of advice? Like you grew up always hearing something and you say it to your own kids, kind of thing?
No.
Like nothing?
Mm-mm.
See, my old man was big on puts hair on your chest. He would always say
Oh,
that. If we would complain about going to the dump or, like in the Midwest when you grow up, you go to the dump on the weekends and it used to be like this big adventure in our house. We'd go to the dump, we get to pick out something at the gas station. Like
I've never heard that.
you've never going to the dump
When you
on the
say
weekends?
dump, I'm thinking like taking the cans to the junkyard and getting like $5.
Yeah, the dump. Well, or cans would be one thing, but if you had junk to drop off.
Okay.
So this was a weekend thing, and my dad always had this like rickety old, gonna fall apart, looked like something out of a horror movie truck, and sometimes the locks didn't work, and sometimes it didn't. And so he would always be like, "Oh, stop your crying, it's fine, get in." Puts hair on your chest. The man has only daughters, and now only granddaughters, and then he's still rough and gruff. This was his advice, and I know you have the cut the mustard. Do you know where cut the mustard comes from?
Was it O. Henry?
Well, it was one of the main crops that in historically was cut by hand with scythes, the
Okay.
same way as corn was. But sometimes it would grow really high, 6 feet or higher, and it was really hard work. So that when the tools weren't sharp anymore, so it would not cut the mustard. Cut the mustard. The
Oh,
big, so kind of like to tie in what you're doing with Rays.
yeah.
So any of those other phrases, I was thinking, where did they come from
Look
and why
at
do we
you
say it?
listening and researching. I
Well,
like this.
hey, it puts hair
Wow.
on my chest.
Yeah.
So if you hear somebody say that somebody's, like running amok, you turn a blind eye, anything like
Hmm.
that, anything you say all the time, but you don't know the meaning to.
I don't know if I have got a. There's like two phrases. Well, one I always say oofda, but I know what that's.
Well, that's
Yeah,
Norwegian.
that's Norwegian over
Often
there.
applies to everything.
There's one that's not a saying that it's from my best friend Jake that I learned in college that he made up.
Okay, what is it?
It's say it.
Okay. Share with the class.
And it caught on. Veronica now says it all the
Uh-huh.
time.
Okay.
Essentially, what it means is you must apologize.
Ah.
So,
All right.
like, you're in college and you're being idiots, or you say something stupid,
Right, right.
and the reaction is like, okay, say it.
Like you owe it.
Yeah,
Like cough
yeah,
it up.
yep,
Time to
say
okay.
it,
I get that. That's a
sort of
good
thing.
one, Jake.
So, yeah.
So, one of the couple that we pulled that I was just curious about, because you always say run amok.
Hmm.
If you have kids sometimes the crew is just like going crazy, everybody's running amok. Probably leads to a say it situation. It actually originated as a medical term. It was popularized in the 18th and 19th centuries when they learned of a peculiar mental affliction that caused otherwise normal people to go pretty much amok or crazy. So it does trace back to that kind of a diagnosis. So if
Hmm.
now when you say run amok, now you know. Or if
Yeah,
you read somebody the riot act, maybe that's what refs are sick of hearing from parents in the stands, you
yeah.
translate it to modern life. But in 18th century England, the riot act was a real document, and it was said that they often would recite it aloud to angry mobs. So it comes from like literal roots. It would actually sit and read this
Hmm.
riot act to angry mobs.
Interesting.
When was the last time you felt like you got an earful from someone? Somebody really chewed you out?
I haven't checked my email lately.
But it's coming.
Probably.
So what was if you can trace back the last thing that you were read the riot act about?
Hmm.
Could be at home, could be at work, could be in sports, could be in life.
Probably every day from Veronica.
Say
Well,
it.
Hudson, apparently the other day told me he doesn't understand why he's the first one in the family that'll be in the NFL, and kinda
Ha!
chewed me out that way.
Such
I'm
a
like, "Wow,
burn.
I'm so sorry I disappointed you."
Yeah.
You
Well, tell
know?
him you like your weekends off.
Yeah,
Dad couldn't play in the NFL because
yeah,
I like my weekends
yeah,
off.
exactly,
Yeah.
so, there you go.
Hey,
I got an earful from that.
well, I'll know who to cheer on when he suits up. And
Yeah.
as my dad would say, puts hair on your chest.
Second hour kicking off this morning. Appreciate y'all tuning in wherever, however. Appreciate all the contributions as well. A lot of good stuff as we talked to some Brewers in the first hour. Hey, if you have a subscription to The Athletic and you've been frustrated with maybe the Brewers' approach to building teams, you might want to check out Ken Rosenthal's latest article on the Athletic. We were talking about the Bobby Witt Jr. extension for the Kansas City Royals. And as he put his headline is Bobby Witt Jr. extension shows small market teams can and should make big moves. So if you got subscription to The Athletic and you have been frustrated with some of the Brewers' moves or lack thereof or decision making, this might fit up your alley over there. All right, let's do some grind my gears Tuesday. I got two of them, and they are related to the NFL. It is Super Bowl week right now. I'll start off with the first one, and you hear this pretty much like this. This is the time of year when you hear it'll never happen, but can we please, NFL, please move the Super Bowl to a Saturday? Just move it to Saturday. It's not going to happen. I get it. I understand it. It'll never happen. I guess never say never, because my second grind my gear related to the NFL is going to be related to, for anybody saying, well, it wouldn't move, they can't move, and all that sort of stuff. It's my second one's related to that. But can we just move it to Saturday instead of making Monday a national holiday like some people said? Because one, I can't take advantage of that because I'd still be here talking about it. But two, can we just do it Saturday, have a little time to recover on Sunday and such? Can we just make it simple that way? Please move the Super Bowl Saturday, for crying out loud. And for anybody who says, oh, they can't move it there. They can't. They just logistically, they can't. Bull. You want to know why? Because yesterday it was announced the NFL is having a Friday night game week 1 of the season. And the Packers might actually be playing in this game. So it was announced that the Eagles will be playing in the first ever NFL game played on opening week Friday nights. The Eagles will be the home team for this game that's going to be played in Brazil. So the Eagles are going to be the home team. Their potential opponents that they could play: Cowboys, Giants, Commanders, Browns, Falcons, Jaguars, Steelers, Panthers, and the Packers. So the Eagles opening up Friday night. So I'm assuming then we're still going to have a Thursday game. Super Bowl champs open up. Now we're going to have a Friday game. Here's where it's grinding my gears here a little bit. You got high school football that plays Friday nights. Okay. You don't touch Saturdays a lot because of college football. Then, college football, Big Ten moved to Friday nights, and, a lot of high schools upset about it. And rightfully so. Now you got the NFL, and I get it's just one game. But for crying out loud, you already have Thursdays. You already have Sundays. You already have Mondays. And sometimes later in the season, you have Saturdays. Now you got Black Fridays. And now we're going to have football Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Monday opening week. You might as well just flip and put a game on Saturday just to have the whole 5 days. Honestly, it's probably going to happen at some point. Let's be real. It's probably going to. But this whole, Friday night opening week, come on. That's high school football. That is high school football. Give them the shot. And I know they'll say, well, it's a national thing and, won't have that big of an effect on local stuff and all that. Come on. It's maybe overreacting here a little bit, but okay, if you're going to put a game on Friday night, there is absolutely no reason you can't change the Super Bowl to a Saturday. I'm sorry, there isn't. You don't have an excuse. You don't care about college football. You don't care about other sports and programming against them because you know you are the NFL and you are king and you are a ratings like gold mine. You're just like printing off cash every time a football game is on TV. How many times? Every single year we're talking about new ratings record breaker with this game every single year. Every single year. Every year we see the top 100 most viewed programs, and what, 90 is like NFL? They can do whatever they want. And people are going to watch and pay attention to it. They're taking advantage of us. They absolutely are. But don't, Friday, yeah, come on. You're gonna have a week 1 Friday game in Brazil. You can move the Super Bowl to Saturday night. Let us have a little recovery on Sunday. Really up our, parties. Really go big in them. And let's have a little recovery time on Sunday, okay? Especially for the fan bases where their teams are in it. Recovery for the fan bases that might be celebrating a win. Recovery for the fan bases that might be drowning out their tears a little bit. You know what I mean? All right, that's my grind my gears. But if you got something that's grinding your gears, you can let us know via the text line. That Shoe Doctor's bullpen line here. Packers making a move, or I should, kind of making some moves regarding their coaching staff right now, position coaches and such. The Packers, we knew yesterday, we talked about it here a little bit, but the Packers moving on, or I should say Jerry Montgomery, their longtime defensive line coach, was their run game coordinator on the defensive side. Going to the Patriots, Kenny Clark tweeting out that the Patriots got a great one over there. Kenny Clark, I mean, that was his longtime position coach. But the Packers apparently already have a new defensive line coach coming in here. Vince Ogobase. I had to look up the pronunciation. I hope I got it right. But according to Tom Silverstein from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, he will be following Jeff Hafley. Ogobase last coached under Jeff Hafley when he was in Boston College. Also, there's other reports, according to Rob, I believe, is it Rob Demoski? I want to make sure I get it correct. Yes, Rob Demoski, that defensive passing game coordinator Greg Williams and inside linebackers coach Kirk Olivati will also not return in 2024. Rob is also saying that defensive backs coach Ryan Downard, and then we've got Jason Rebovich, the pass rush specialist, will be returning. Apparently, will be returning. So so it does seem like, and it sounds like Ryan Downard, who did coach with Jeff Hafley when they were in Cleveland. So there's a little bit of a connection there, I suppose. But at least it sounds like they're going to be bringing in some defensive position coaches that their new coordinator is familiar with, or at least he has a say, right? At least he has a say of who he wants to bring in. So we'll keep you posted if anything kind of pops up. Oh, Joe Barry has a new home. Just saw this, Tom Pelissero. Joe Barry is going to another familiar place under a familiar head coach. He is going to the Dolphins. He has been hired as their linebackers coach / run game coordinator. So he will be joining up with Mike McDonald over there. So, yeah. Weird how there's so much familiarity across the league, right? All right, Mike McDaniel hiring Joe Barry to be a part of his staff. Now, Anthony Weaver was hired as defensive coordinator for the Dolphins. So maybe Anthony Weaver had a little bit more say in there, but I mean, come on, Mike McDaniel's probably got some familiarity with Joe Barry, just like Matt LaFleur did and such. So, but Joe Barry's got a new home. He's going to be with the Dolphins. All right, the question that I asked in the first hour here. So we did our consulting stuff with the Packers and such. We finished that up. Now, if we asked if there was one Packer free agent that you would bang the table for, you're pounding the table for, please bring back, you got to bring this guy back, who would it be? A slight majority going on the offensive side. Here's your top two, but a slight majority actually is A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon on there. Couple of texts. I'd bring back A.J. Dillon. I still think he is a very good complement to Aaron Jones, and he was playing better up until he got hurt. Bring him back on a 1-year prove-it deal. Another texter saying, I'd bring back A.J. Dillon because I think he'd be a cheaper option, provides some more depth at the running back position, and he is a much better runner in December. Utilize, I think that's supposed to be skill sets. Second most was Keyshawn Nixon. A couple texts surrounding Keyshawn Nixon. I know the return game is kind of a lost art in the NFL right now, but he's a 2-time All-Pro in the return game, still a threat to bring it back to the house. I would bring back Keyshawn Nixon. I also thought he played solid as a slot corner. Another texter saying that I thought he was pretty physical as a slot corner. With this new style of defense, I would pound the table to bring him back, and also his special teams help. Those were your top two picks. We did have a couple for Darnell Savage. Not as much as I maybe thought. One texter saying I'd bring back Darnell Savage, but I don't know if he would fit this style of defense that the new coordinator is coming in. He seems to struggle to cover tight ends. Okay. So there you have it. That's kind of where another texter here is going with A.J. Dillon as well, just for depth purposes at the running back position. Again, it's Packer free agents, not just free agents in general, but the free agents that are currently members of the Packers. So a Packer free agent, not just whoever's out there. Who are you pounding on the table to bring back to Green Bay? I mean, I'd be good. Keyshawn, yes. I think the market value thing is off on Spot Track, because if you go there, it says the market value for him is $1.7 million. He got $4 million this last year. I don't think it's going to be that far off, that much different. A.J. Dillon, for their market value, they've got 3.5 over there. Personally, I want A.J. Dillon back just because it's Hudson's favorite one, but I also do think he does provide a value to this team. He is not a number one running back. He is not your bell cow. But I do think he can provide something later in the season. He can provide a few good reps here and there. Give Aaron Jones a breather. I still think even if they bring back A.J. Dillon, you have to get a running back in the draft. Got to find that guy. A guy that's similar to an Aaron Jones skill set. But I think A.J. Dillon still has a role on this team in certain situations. I wouldn't mind him back. Darnell is, because you're going to play a lot of single high safety in this new defense. Is he that safety that can play in the back end, that center field role? Is he able to do that? He has struggled in the passing game at times, specifically covering tight ends. He has struggled in that. But, when you're thinking of like a single high safety, think of an Earl Thomas type of safety. Can Darnell Savage fit that type? I've got my questions on Darnell Savage just because he's been so inconsistent. He's been so inconsistent in his play. Could a new defense help out his play skill? It could. Would he take a 1-year prove-it deal and say, hey, I'm better suited for this? I mean, all the talk about Darnell Savage, I feel like ever since he was first drafted, is that, hey, maybe he's better suited for a nickel corner or a nickel, a slot corner type of role. And whether he's gotten that fair share or that fair shot, debatable. Matt LaFleur's high on him. Packers seem to be fairly high on him. Would they entertain bringing him back if it's the numbers work out? I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think the big question is, can he play? Can he be that center fielder, that safety center fielder that can play that single high? Be that back and help out in coverage. Be the last resort. We know he's got the speed. That was one of the things when he's coming out of Maryland when they drafted him. Speed. So maybe he's best suited for that. We've got a couple texts here. I would love to see Nixon and Owens back. I know Owens had ups and downs, but he provides depth and special teams, and the same goes for Nixon. I'd be good with Owens back too. I think for safety, maybe he's that safety that is kind of up in the box, helping out with a little run support and such. But you're right, in the special teams department too. Definitely a physical safety. Grind my gears. You are right. Football is getting full of themselves. I want my games played on Sunday afternoon, not any other day. Saturday Super Bowl is a must. There we go. I agree with you, Dave. Absolutely. All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll have some more football chat coming up here. Don't forget, we've got the new Raise Play segments. Who cut the mustard and who didn't? It's coming up at 8:05. Participate with us. Hit us up with those texts at 715-830-1912. Quick break. We'll be back in just a few minutes. new deer rifle or shotgun for turkey and bird hunting. Hey, now that I've piqued your interest, it's time to go visit Tilden Gun. Family owned and operated, Sean and Hunter from Tilden Gun are ready to help you find that new deer rifle or shotgun for your next hunting adventure, and they have the biggest selection in the area, all at the best prices. And they'll even help you find just what you're looking for. So you can either visit tildengun.com to check out their selection online or stop by at 12427 98th Avenue in Chippewa Falls to see what they have in their store, including their used selection and their wall of handguns, plus all the accessories you need. So once you get that tax return this year, save some of it and spoil yourself this year. Upgrade to a new deer rifle or shotgun for turkey hunting this year. You deserve it. And let Tilden Gun help you find that firearm you're looking for.
Not only can you listen to your favorite radio show in the world, but now you can watch why everyone says Dan has a face for radio. Watch the Dan Kasper Show live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Weekday mornings from 6 to 9.
Believe it or not, baseball season is around the corner, which means spring training. Players are getting ready for another long baseball season this summer. But hey, spring training doesn't just have to be for baseball players. It can be for you too. Are you tired of those aches and pains and something that you've been holding off on going to see someone for help? Not anymore. Spring on into Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and start your spring training so you're ready for an awesome summer. At Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, you will receive surpassed care delivered with compassion and respect. So get ready to get back into the game. Make your appointment today by visiting cvosm.com. That's cvosm.com to get started. We'll talk some Packers here. We'll get back to some more baseball talk. Got a few of you chiming in about the crew and such. So we'll get back to some more baseball talk coming up here in just a little bit. But Super Bowl week continues here. We'll get some picks, celebrity picks, and all that fun stuff. But Packers making some moves, adding some defensive coaches. Vince Ogabase, who's a Boston College guy coming over following Jeff Hafley. Sounds like the Packers also be filling in some other roles, including the cornerbacks coach and such. Let's chat some more green and gold with Joseph. Joe, does it make you happy to hear that it sounds like at least Matt LaFleur and the Packers are allowing their defensive coordinator to bring in some of his guys to help teach that system?
Yeah, 100%. And I'm glad you brought that up, Captain, because as opposed to the Joe Barry hire, basically Matt LaFleur dictated his staff to him, and a lot of those holdovers from the Mike Pettin era. And as a DC or an OC, you want your guys there. And so, and you saw it again with Joe Barry and Terry Gray. There was some dissension there and some disagreement there. And so 100%, if you are going to let a guy run the defense, and by the way, Joe Barry did end up with a new job. He is now the Dolphins linebacker coach and run game coordinator. So Joe Barry did land on his feet. But getting back to the Packers, yeah, you've got to allow your guy, your chosen one to be DC, your guy that's going to get you over the top, to put his guys in there. And so that's refreshing, and that shows growth from Matt LaFleur. So I think that's a good thing. Now, take that one step further. When Matt LaFleur was hired, he had to keep Mike Pettin. And so I think, again, the more autonomy, the more freedom, the more empowerment that you give coaches like that, I think the better you're going to be. So like what's happening, you're seeing a couple of defensive coaches retained, which is good as well. I think that speaks well to some of the position coaches that they had. Reports Jerry Montgomery leaving for the Patriots, and so obviously that fills the role there from a defensive line perspective. But yeah, I feel good the way that this is shaping up this offseason. And I think it's a big offseason for Matt LaFleur and the Packers.
Speaking of which, too, staying with the assistant coaches, Sean Mannion, the former quarterback, sounds like he's taking a role, a coaching role, retiring and joining the Packers, helping out with the quarterbacks in the passing game. It sounds like, too, according to reports, Tom Clements is coming back To me, Joe, that almost screams like, is this kind of like potentially a coach in waiting, and Tom Clements, he's up there in age, maybe kind of a quarterback's coach in waiting with Sean Mannion. What do you think about that hire?
100%. I think Sean Mannion can learn now under Clements. Was very encouraged to hear that Clements is coming back. I think, we all know that he and Mike McCarthy created the off-season quarterback school. And I think he was a big reason that Jordan Love had the season he had. I think Tom Clements is one of those guys that knows quarterbacking, knows football. And I think he's an asset to the staff. And I think having an experienced guy, Matt LaFleur's staff is big. And so, yeah, I do see the Mannion move as a quarterback coach in waiting. And, I've always liked a quarterback coach at that level that played the game at that level. And, you go back to Darrell Bevel, if it will. And I always thought that was a mismatch. That it's the guy that never played at that level. And so, Alex Van Pelt was a longtime quarterback coach for Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. And I just think having a guy that's been in your shoes, I think is a big asset. And could this be quarterback coach in waiting for Mannion? Absolutely. But he's going to be able to learn from one of the best, Tom Clements. And as far as I'm concerned, Tom Clements, if I'm Matt LaFleur, he's got a lifetime contract, and I'm not pushing him out the door anytime soon. But I think it's good to bring somebody in, because I think it's probably one of the most important positions on your is that quarterback coach. And again, having 2 eyes or 4 eyes out there now looking at the quarterback, I think is a good thing.
I know you posted a question or a picture of Darnell Savage, and we've been kind of asking as kind of our question of the day, if there was one current Packers free agent that you'd be banging a table to maybe bring back, who would that be? And Savage being, one of those. My question for you with Savage, can he play in what we're expecting, maybe a little bit more of a single high defense? Can he play that single high safety role, do you think, with this defense?
Yeah, it's interesting, Captain, because I actually think Keyshawn Nixon is the one guy I want to bring back. And a big reason for that is I actually think Keyshawn Nixon, you could rotate him back to safety. And I think you could actually maybe see him playing a little bit more of that role. If you look over film and you look over Darnell Savage over the last several years, he was better when he was closer to the line of scrimmage. And so I do have my question marks whether or not he can play that single high safety. And if the Packers are going to go any direction in free agency, I actually think that safety is the one position where I wouldn't mind Goody spending some money on it. And there's some guys out there. And again, I think because you're looking at a single high, I think that's a critical position. And so, again, you look at Darnell Savage coming out of Maryland, and you look at his tape, and it's very impressive. It's just very impressive. And I actually thought Green Bay had the second coming of Nick Collins there for the first couple of years, but he just seemed very uncomfortable in space, much more comfortable when he's playing closer to the line of scrimmage. So I'm voting for Keyshawn Nixon as the guy to bring back. If you can get Darnell Savage Jr. on a cheap, maybe a 1-year prove-it deal, maybe, I would say absolutely bring it back. There's just too much athletic ability to be done with him. And again, I thought it was a heck of a draft choice coming out of college. He just has not performed. But you've seen this before with Green Bay defensive backs and Micah Hyde and Casey Hayward, where they just weren't good fits in the Green Bay defense. But once they went elsewhere, they excelled. And so you don't want to see that with Darnell Savage Jr., especially with a new defensive coordinator who has a secondary background. So if you can bring Darnell Savage Jr. on a cheap contract and see if he can play that role, I'm all about it. But again, I think the guy that right now for me is a no-brainer to bring back, and I don't think it's going to break the bank, is Keyshawn Nixon.
The Keyshawn Nixon to safety one is something I never thought of, and it's intriguing. And you mentioned a name there too, and I could see maybe some similarities is Micah Hyde. When he was in Green Bay, he played a little, slot corner, safety in that, went to Buffalo, played safety, became an All-Pro. Could you see something similar like to a Keyshawn Nixon, Micah Hyde type of role?
Absolutely. Look, Keyshawn Nixon is a tremendous athlete, and I think as the season went on last year, I think he really grew in that position as the slot corner. And Keyshawn Nixon in the Dallas game, very physical, very physical, coming down, making plays, and you saw just a lot of activity from him in that game. And so, yeah, I'm really intrigued by that potential move. And again, I think the comparison to Micah Hyde's a great one because he was miscast as a slot corner, and he goes to Buffalo and becomes an All-Pro safety. And so, I like Keyshawn Nixon. First of all, I think it would be a huge mistake to let him walk from a special team standpoint and a defensive depth standpoint, regardless of where you play him. But yeah, I could see easily him sliding into a safety role and playing, and I could see him playing that single high because I do think that Keyshawn Nixon plays the ball pretty well. He doesn't have a lot of interceptions in his career, but also he hasn't had the opportunity before he got to Green Bay to play a lot of defense. So I think you need to look at all of those things, especially with this new DC.
This is the first I've gotten to ask you this, but what are your thoughts on Jeff Hafley being the new defensive coordinator for the Pack?
I like it, and I didn't know a lot about him, and for me to say that I'm for it or against it, or I've studied him in depth, he just was not a guy on most of our radar, and so I like his philosophy. I like what guys like Richard Sherman say about him from a standpoint of coaching defensive backs, and I think the fact that he is a defensive back specialist, this is a guy that's his sweet spot, is coaching the secondary. I think that's the biggest thing. And you talk about, mixing and matching some 4-man fronts. And I think Green Bay's personnel plays well into that because, again, I almost thought that some of the guys that they've been drafting were more suited for a 4-3 front. And so I like that. I like the philosophy of playing a little bit more press corner. And again, that's going to be dependent upon who you bring back and what Eric Stokes does, and et cetera, because you need the guys at those positions to play press. But yeah, I like the pick, and I know there was a lot of social media talk about it's nepotism and LaFleur's friends with him and everything. I'm like, guys, I don't care what level you coach at. You want to be comfortable with the coaches around you, and so if there is a history and if it's a direct connection, that's great with LaFleur. If not, but some guys who work for him, and some similar guys or some acquaintances that they both know. Absolutely. So yeah, everything that I've looked into after the pick was made, I like what I'm seeing and hearing. And again, I think the biggest area that you can say stamp of approval on is the fact that this guy's a secondary coach at heart. And I think that's exactly what Green Bay needs, because I think that's where Joe Barry, I think that's where things got lost a little bit. A lot of miscommunication in the secondary with this Joe Barry defense. And I think if you got a guy that can focus there, and again, going back to Richard Sherman, and Richard Sherman, not an easy player to coach, and Richard Sherman had nothing but praise to say about him. So thumbs up. And again, time will tell. Give this guy a chance to get into this position and see what he can do. And again, one thing that I do want to say, Captain, and you're seeing this now more and more. Obviously Saban retiring, and you're seeing college coaches either retiring or going back to the NFL. And I think you're going to see a lot of that over the next several years, because the NIL and the constant portal action that's going on, I think it's crazy. And I think if you're a purist at heart, I think college coaching is probably the most difficult place to coach now. And if you're a football purist where you don't need to worry about, man, I'm going to lose this kid next year to the NIL because somebody's going to pay him more. Yeah, the NFL has that with free agency, but it's not as loose as the NIL and the portal is right now in college football. So I think you're going to see a lot of college coaches either retire or go into the pros because they don't want to deal with it anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that there too. To Jeff, was it kind of like when it was announced? It sounds like you were similar to me. It was like, okay, who you kind of start to do a little background on it, and it's like he checks the box though. He may not have the name, but he checks the box for a lot of stuff that Packers fans wanted to see. A guy who plays press coverage, that he loves playing press corner. There was a quote that we hit up saying that he thinks it's a necessity that you got to play press coverage. It relies a lot on your defensive line to help out and get after the quarterback. I mean, even though he doesn't have a name, it sure seems like he checks a lot of those boxes. And you're right. I don't care if he's a friend. I don't care. I mean, Heck, Andy Reid's got his BFFs all over the place, and they're doing pretty well. So I mean, I
Yeah,
don't care about that.
absolutely. Yeah, that's a non-story, man. That's clickbait,
Mhm.
and everybody was jumping on that. I'm like, who cares, you guys? If the guy can coach, he can coach. It doesn't matter his personal relationship with MLF. And so, yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. For Packer fans to rip on this, it's everything you wanted, Packer fans. Checking the boxes, going through you wanted this, you wanted this, you wanted this, and now you've got it. And so, look, I think everything I've seen so far about him, like you said, checks the boxes. And I think the biggest one for me is I wanted a guy who could coach the secondary,
Mhm.
and I wanted a guy who has a focus there. And so, yeah, I think it's a good move. Time will tell and where this thing goes. But I think it's a huge hire for MLF, and for his sake and Green Bay's sake, I hope he got it right.
I know Goody had his end of the season presser last week too, and related to the defense, I thought it was a good question. I can't remember who asked it, and a good answer from Goody. But talk about the defense too. I really liked hearing Goody say that he's going to work with Jeff, the defensive coordinator, and finding guys that fit his system to essentially not have those square pegs and trying to fit them into a round hole. And it sounds like Goody was involved in the process. Matt LaFleur had the final decision on defensive corner, but it seems like everybody's at least in communication right now and trying to make this work. And we're everybody's not being forced on, coaches or players. It seems like everybody's kind of just in constant communication to fix this. Is that something that you got away from that presser from Goody too?
Yeah, and you know what? He gets a lot of crap, but I gotta hand Mark Murphy credit on this because he had seen the siloed off part of the organization towards the end of Ted's tenure as GM and Mike McCarthy's tenure as coach. And Mark Murphy saw that firsthand, and we all questioned his moves now that you've got Goody reporting to Mark Murphy and Matt LaFleur reporting to Mark Murphy and Russ Ball reporting to Mark Murphy. And there was some consternation at the time that this structure wasn't going to work. And it seems to me, because everyone said that, maybe LaFleur wasn't Goody's guy originally. It was a Mark Murphy guy. And, a lot of conjecture at the time. And I think what you're seeing now is I think you're seeing the Mark Murphy CEO mindset that, you know what, I'm going to run the Packers. And again, I think Bob Harlan did a tremendous job, but I think Murphy should get a lot of credit as well, because I think Murphy built this structure, saw the problems that the Packers had at the time with Ted Thompson and Mike McCarthy. And yeah, I do see it, a team very much in concert, or a management team very much in concert right now. And I think going back to the Jordan Love decision, there was conjecture that Matt LaFleur wasn't on board with that, and I don't see that. And again, and Jordan Love's season was able to prove a lot of Packer naysayers, a lot of people inside 1265. I think a lot of them privately were probably saying, "I told you so." But yeah, it seems to be everyone's rowing in the same direction. And I don't care if you're a business, a football team, or whatever. When you've got from the top down the vision correct and the way to get there correct, good things can happen.
Last question here for you, Joseph. Again, going back to the defense, because I know a lot of people are hung up on whether it's going to be a 3-4, 4-3, or whatever have you. I think you and I both agree that if it is a 4-3, they've got the guys like a Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith can transition to a defensive end and such. But do you think it might be possibly more of a 4-2-5 because I mean, if you're 4-3, you got to think about another inside linebacker at that point.
Yeah, again, nickel is the new base in the NFL, and so whatever you're doing, you're going to be running more nickel than you ever have before, and so I think that's a big part of it. So yeah, look, if they're going to go to a true 4-3, in my opinion, then you're saying, okay, Devondre Campbell is a guy you're keeping
Mhm.
because you go Quay Walker, Devondre Campbell. And then you go McDuffie at that other linebacker, and obviously then you got Lucas Van Ness, Preston Smith, Rashawn Gary, Kenny Clark. You got those guys to fill the line position. But yeah, it looks to me, and the jury's still out on Devondre Campbell. But I think if you're going to a true 4-3, I think you keep him for that reason. You're going to have to draft players for this defense. But yeah, I think you're going to see more Lucas Van Ness, for example, Rashawn Gary with hands in the dirt, and I think if you watch both of them, I think they're both very comfortable playing that role, and obviously they both played kind of that hybrid position, one in Michigan, one in Iowa, but you saw their hand in the dirt a lot in college, and I think that can transfer really well to the NFL. One guy who I will say, going back to Preston Smith, I think Green Bay needs to do whatever they can to keep him. This guy, when you look at the season he had last year, and especially playing well late in the year, I think he's a must keep on the defensive side of the ball. But again, going back to the hire, this is a big one for Matt LaFleur. Hopefully, he got it right.
I agree. Good stuff, man. Hey, appreciate it. Before I let you go, you got to get on the marker board here in the studio. Who you got for Sunday's Super Bowl, Chiefs or 49ers?
I'm going to say this, and I'm just a huge Andy Reid fan, and maybe this is also my disdain for the 49ers, but I'm going Chiefs, and I will tell you, once again, just a huge Andy Reid fan, and I don't care about the drama with Taylor Swift and Patrick Mahomes' dad and all this kind of stuff. Andy Reid's just a football coach, and I think Mahomes has proven a lot this offseason. So I'm going with KC this week.
All right. We're going to get you on that marker board. You're officially under KC. Dude, appreciate the time as always. And hey, let's do this again next week. Okay, man?
You got it, man. We'll talk soon.
You got it. There you go. There's Joe DeGuano joining us here this morning, chatting some green and gold. We got to take a quick break, and we'll finish up the second hour after these few words. We're always looking to save a little money in our pockets, but hey, we still need our essentials like our grocery items. So how do you save some money while also getting what you need for your family? Hy-Vee Perks, baby. If you shop at Hy-Vee, you're already getting a great deal on quality items throughout the store. But now you can save some more money with Hy-Vee Perks on different items each week. And you can also save some money at the gas pump with your Hy-Vee Perks. I mean, who doesn't want to save a little extra money at the gas pump? Saving some money is easy if you shop at Hy-Vee in Eau Claire. So take advantage of those awesome deals and sales and stop on over at Hy-Vee in Eau Claire today, especially if you're getting your menu ready for the big game coming up on Sunday. Have you thought about what spread you're putting together for the game? Going with some ribs, going with some brats, going with some chili, going with pizza. Hutsy's all excited about the nachos that we're going to be doing. So what's on the spread? What do you got going this year? Let me know. Okay, hit me up with that. Coming up next hour, the new Raised Play segment: Who cut the mustard and who didn't? It's kind of like studs and duds, but play along with me. All right, hit me up with your picks. 715-830-1912 with a quick text, or on Facebook, facebook.com/Kasper Sports, Twitter at DANKASPER, or hit us up on the video stream that's on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. So we'll get to that, and then after that, we'll bring in Mr. RJ Cardinal. Lots to catch up on with the Badger world, not only with hoops and hockey. We're going to throw some wrestling in there. We're going to talk a little bit about the alliance between Big Ten and the SEC. A little dramatic there, but you get what we're getting at there. So lots to catch up on with RJ coming up in the next hour as well. We'll get back to some more baseball talk with the Brewers adding another pitcher. Kind of the question been floating out there is, with the Brewers' moves so far this offseason, Jackson Chiriot signed up. We haven't even seen him at the major league level. Long-term deal. Corbin Burns traded. Rhys Hoskins coming in. What is your expectation for this Brewers team? What's going through your mind right now? Hopefully, maybe after Friday or Thursday night's news about Corbin Burns being dealt, kind of taking a little bit of the emotions out of it. I know it's kind of hard to completely do that, but what's the mindset going into this Brewers season, as we're less than a couple weeks away from pitchers and catchers reporting? What's your mindset? Is it similar? A lot of people in the first hour saying, just to kind of paraphrase, similar to maybe how they approached the Packers season this year. Maybe not going in with a lot of expectations to this thing. Hopefully they surpass them. Hopefully there's some wins and you're pleasantly surprised. Or maybe you're like, okay, I want to see these young dudes step up, see what they got. Like the Jackson Cheerios, the Sal Freliks heading into their second year. What's your mindset going into this Brewers season as we kind of approach or getting closer to approaching spring training? Let me know. All right, we'll go through some more of your thoughts and comments on that coming up in the final hour here. So, and don't forget, you can start to make your Super Bowl picks right now by visiting sportstalk1051.com and clicking on that Fan Cave tab. We do have a Thursday game on there because it's Bucks and T-Wolves. Got to put that one on there for our picks. So you want to make sure you get your picks on over there. Bucks are back in action tonight as they wrap up their 5-game road trip, taking on the Phoenix Suns. It's going to be a late one, 9 o'clock, but you can catch it right here on the radio dials, 105.1 FM and 790 AM. Can the Bucks pick up a win and go 2-3 on this trip? Hasn't been a good one so far. Has not been a good one. Bucks now in the third seed in the Eastern Conference. Red hot Cleveland. Just a couple days away from that trade deadline too. Will the Bucks make a move before that deadline? We'll keep you posted if anything does happen to transpire, as deadlines spur actions, right? All right, 2 in. We got one more to go. We're going to take a quick break. Some news updates, and then we'll be back with a little Raised Place, who cut the mustard and who didn't, after these quick words. third and final hour kicking off right now on this Tuesday morning. Appreciate y'all tuning in. However, wherever you may be tuning in, got the radio dials, 105.1 FM, 790 AM, also online. You can stream it up at sportstalk1051.com. Got your Google and Alexa home devices, the app, take us on the go, wherever. And, of course, the video stream, rolling YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Coming up here in about, let's say, 15 minutes or so, we'll catch up with RJ Cardinal, Badger analyst. Lots to catch up on with him. Badger basketball falling to 11th in the latest polls after riding a 2-game losing streak right now. They got Michigan on the schedule tomorrow. We'll hit that up, talk some hockey. Got to throw some wrestling, some other stuff going on at UW down there. Good stuff with a lot of different sports down there. So we'll talk to RJ about that. Also talk to him, too, about Big Ten, SEC, with the news last Friday. I know we hit that up a little bit yesterday, but RJ's our college dude there. We'll get his thoughts on that as well. We begin this hour, though, with a new Raise Play segment. Who cut the mustard and who didn't? If you're not familiar with the phrase, the slogan, whatever we want to call it, what does cut the mustard mean? Got to go back in the day, but it's to reach or surpass the desired standard or performance, to succeed, to have the ability to do something. So it's kind of like a studs and duds sort of thing we got going on here, right? So with that, and if anybody who's been to Ray's place, mustard, put a little bit on your hot beef, a little bit on the ham sandwich over there, good stuff. That'll clear out the nostrils there too. So, but who cut the mustard and who didn't? I got my picks here. Mentioned them a little bit earlier. So let's start off with who did cut the mustard. I'm going to go with Kansas City Royals. Small market team. They're potentially on, trying to work on a new stadium. And what did they do? They went out and locked up their young shortstop, 23-year-old shortstop, Bobby Witt Jr. on a mega extension. 11-year guarantee. It's a 14-year deal, but 11 years guaranteed over there. You're talking about, and it's a lot of, money's later on in this contract. It's got some player options on there, and then some club options. But to lock him up for, let's get the exact number. So it's I'm going to read a little bit here from MLB.com. Starts this season, could at least run through the 2034 season, an 11-year guarantee with a team option that could carry it 3 more years through 2037 as a 14-year deal. It's not only the largest contract in team history, but the first Royals contract spanning 10-plus seasons. It's worth $288.7 million over the 11 guaranteed seasons with a 3-year team option that could make it worth $377.7 million over 14 total years. For Kansas City, that's a big chunk of money. That's a big chunk of money. And if you've kind of been following too with Kansas City, they're trying to work on potentially a new stadium. And they're just a few months away before the residents are going to be voting on whether a stadium sales tax is extended, helping the Royals move out of Kauffman Stadium and to downtown Kansas City by 2028. So they're trying to figure out their stadium stuff. And what do? I mean, maybe they can hold on to some money and such and not spend it. Nope. Locked up one of the best players in all of baseball. Royals fans got to be pumped. I mean, you go on social media, they're already pumped, but they got him locked down. Face of the franchise. One of the best young players in all of baseball. So, who cut the mustard? The Kansas City Royals cut the mustard there. Who didn't cut the mustard? I don't know if any of you saw this report, but if it's true, shame on some teams. Now, Diana Rossini from The Athletic, there's an article out, a report out there too, that apparently some teams passed on Mike Vrabel because of how big he is. An anonymous general manager told Diana Rossini that Vrabel's physical stature may have been a factor. Quote, he's a very large human being and can be very intimidating to people in an organization. And she followed that up with a tweet saying that the general manager said, quote, I'm just telling you, I've been in rooms and somebody's physical presence can make a difference. If that was a reason. Now, to be fair, she did also say that this is not the reason, despite it being a very entertaining theory. If this did cross the mind of general managers or decision makers, like, oh God, that's a big. First of all, he played linebacker in the NFL. Of course, he's going to be a bigger guy. But I mean, come on, get over yourself. He's a football coach. He's a freaking football coach who used to play in the NFL. You know, there's a pretty good coach right now who's a pretty intimidating guy when he walks in the room and when he talks. It's Dan Campbell with the Detroit Lions. Worked out over there, or it's working out now. May have been a little bit of a slow start, but it's working out. If you're not hiring somebody because of their physical presence and that you're maybe a little intimidated when he walks into a room, maybe it's because you're afraid of a disagreement or something like that. Come on. You're in the wrong business. So, to whoever teams, whatever teams, if that crossed their mind, you didn't cut the mustard there. That's ridiculous. Saw that, and I know some people are having fun with it on social media, but for crying out loud, part of me would be shocked if that was a part of a reason. Again, I don't think it was the whole reason, but part of the reason. But I guess at the same breath, maybe I shouldn't be totally surprised either, because it's such an ego-centric world when it comes to the NFL and sports in general. So that's who cut the mustard and didn't cut the mustard, brought to you by Ray's Place here this morning. Before we get to RJ, let's catch up on a few texts that we got going on here surrounding the Brewers. So in the first hour, we asked how, what's your mindset heading into this Brewer season? It's kind of been a weird offseason, right? Jackson Cheerio signing long-term. We haven't even seen him in the major leagues yet. Barely even saw him in AAA. Corbin Burns traded. Rhys Hoskins signed. Brandon Woodruff's injury, he's not going to be with the team. Not even going to be pitching this year, it sounds like. So you got a team here that's a bunch of youngsters sprinkled in with a couple of veterans, a Yelich, a Rhys Hoskins. Contreras had a really good year last year. Hopefully he could be the long-term solution at catcher. But what is your mindset heading into it? First hour, a lot of people kind of comparing it to Green Bay this year. Got some youngsters, a little bit of an unknown, a little stress-free. You're not going in with really high expectations. So you're excited about that, and then you're kind of hoping, hey, maybe they surpass those expectations. And as some of you know, too, you're like, well, it's the NL Central. Not a lot of movement has been made. Brewers still have a shot to win the division. It seems like the common theme for a lot of people, at least those who have chimed in, you're kind of comparing it to how your expectations were for the Packers to begin the season. You didn't really have any. You were hoping they was going to win some games, and you were hoping that questions would be answered with the youth movement. But right now, it just seems like, at least again, the majority of you are kind of going to this thing saying, let's see how it works, see how it plays out. Not really having any high expectations for this club. And maybe for some, too, that's a disappointment, too, because you want high expectations. You want to go in there with a mindset of, like, it's got to be a World Series championship this year. Patrick on the video stream said that I was very excited when the Brewers signed Hoskins, but after the trade of Burns, I'm not so excited anymore. A couple more texts going here. I choose to be the optimist, and I'm excited to see some of the younger players get a shot. I think this is the way that the Brewers have to go about their business, putting their eggs in the basket of some of the younger players out there and seeing what they got. They can't compete with the high-priced teams over there. A lot of people want to point the finger at the ownership group, but facts are facts. He doesn't have as much money as some of the other owners out there. Still a lot of money, but doesn't have deep pockets like some. Another texter here. This is from Jake. Jake saying that I was definitely a little down with my excitement after the Corbin Burns trade. After that's settled down here a little bit, I'm willing to see what the youngsters have. Hey, maybe we can be surprised. I just wish that this team could have or would get a championship for Euchre. I think a lot of people share that same sentiment, Jake, that a lot of people probably want Euchre to get a World Series ring. Kind of send them off with a World Championship. Get Euchre that ring. I think somebody had already mentioned that a little bit earlier too, but yeah, get him a ring. Get him that. So another texture here before we take a break and get to RJ. Texture saying with the Brewers, definitely changed my expectations and goals within the last few days after the Corbin Burns trade. I still had World Series expectations with Burns on the team. Now that he's out, I'm going in with the mindset of let's just see what we've got with these youngsters. Hopefully, we'll be surprised with some positive performance and a bunch of wins like we saw from the Packers earlier this year. All right. Keep those coming. We'll get back to some more. Coming up, though, we're going to switch gears here a little bit. We're going to talk some college sports. We'll talk some Badgers with RJ Cardinal. Marquette moved up a couple spots in the poll, but the Badger men's basketball team dropped a few spots. Now outside the top 10 after losing to Nebraska and Purdue. They got Michigan coming up tomorrow. We'll hit that up. We've got hockey also to talk about as well, but we're going to throw in some other Badger sports teams in there. I know RJ's is a wrestling fan, so Badger wrestling too. They're having a pretty solid season here too. So let's throw in a little other sports, give them some love, give them some attention and such. But I also want to talk to him about this Big Ten SEC. Are we going to get an alliance with these two? What to make of it? Of the news that they were going to kind of get together and talk about the future of college athletics and such. So want to get RJ's thoughts on that. So we'll take a quick break and bring RJ on just a little bit earlier because, hey, we got lots to hit up on. We'll be back after these quick words. vinyl planks from Wisconsin's premier flooring store, Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire. Whatever style of flooring you're looking for, or maybe you're not sure what style you want yet, the team at Carpet City Flooring Center is waiting to help you find that perfect new floor for your space. So what in the world are you waiting for? Once you get your taxes done, go visit Carpet City Flooring Center at 3109 East Hamilton Avenue and chat with one of their awesome team members. They'll help you so that you can finally get that new floor in your home that you've been wanting for a while now, and all at the best prices in town.
More than the scores. More than the news. It's Sports Out the Squeaker. The Dan Kasper Show.
We know Mike's Star Market is your go-to place for quality and flavor when it comes to brats, steaks, burgers, and chicken. And Mike's is also your go-to place when it comes to snack sticks, jerky, and now freeze-dried candy. Dude, there's so many different flavors of freeze-dried candy that you'll want to try them all. And whenever you walk into Mike's Star Market, you're likely to find something new to try. It's almost like you're on a scavenger hunt when you head on over to Mike's Star Market. So whether you're looking for something to make for dinner or to stock up on some different snacks, head on over to Mike's Star Market on the west side of Eau Claire, baby. Looking to add to your big game menu coming up on this Sunday over there too. So, all right, let's bring in our guy, Mr. RJ Cardinal. I got a lot of stuff I want to hit you up with this morning, RJ. But first things first, going back to Friday, the news of the Big Ten and the SEC kind of getting together and meeting and such. So what exactly have you kind of heard or read about that's going on with that? And what are your thoughts about, Big Ten and SEC maybe taking over the world as we see it?
Essentially, it's a threat to the NCAA to start doing their job.
Mm-hmm.
They're not happy with the way the college football playoff was moving forward. They're not happy with the rules and regulations of the current state of NIL. And they've basically said, hey, we're here. If you want us to stay here, start making rules and regulations. And, the delay for the 6 berths into the college football playoff and then the 6th at-large berths was delayed until 2025 because Washington State's president didn't vote on the thing and delayed the vote. So, all they're really doing is, at this point, they're letting them know we will break away, but we're giving you a chance.
Mm-hmm. So is that kind of it? So to explain it to maybe some others listening, can the Big Ten Conference and the SEC break away and start their own football league or basketball or whatever? How would that look?
I think the easiest would be a football league here. Right now you'll have 36 teams, I think, in the conference. Not in the conference, but if they break away, that's more than enough to do a 12-team playoff. You can do scheduling. You have your own conference you can schedule. You have your out of conference you can schedule with those two, and not have to worry about it. And chances are that's going to be a pretty big moneymaker, even with some of those lesser teams that are coming along for the ride in both conferences.
Mm-hmm.
But I think football would be the easiest to do it in, mostly because you have a 12-game schedule that can go to 13 in the conference championship, and you move on from there with a said playoff. And who's to say, you don't even make it less games for the regular season and have a larger playoff that maybe half the teams make. It's really something I think football would be the easiest to go with, because some of the other sports don't necessarily have corresponding throughout all the conferences, and you'd want to keep it there, but probably break away football first and maybe do a basketball later. But still, football is really the driving force here. And I think it would just be football breaking away and being something not in the NCAA.
What do you think the chances are that that could actually happen, or do you think this is kind of what you're saying too? Like, all right, this is just that play to really push the hand of the NCAA at this point in time.
Hopefully it's just like the idle threat the Big Ten did when they said we can't be paying players, so we're going to go towards like a D3 model after this, or we're not going to hand out scholarship model if this happens. And I mean, lo and behold, that didn't happen. So hopefully it is just the threat of we really need you to be the hand in this that we need you to be.
Mm-hmm.
And if that takes place, we won't worry about it. But I mean, like we were talking is when NIL first came down, NCAA did nothing about it. They outsourced to Congress to take care of it. I mean, you're the NCAA, you should be the one taking care of this, but they didn't. And now we're where we are here with the NIL side of things, and also the college football playoff side of it, that your top two money making conferences with the largest brands aren't happy about.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the college football, a topic that we kind of touched on a couple days now, and it's related to the Packers' new defensive coordinator, Jeff Hafley, coming over from Boston College, leaving a head coaching job in college football to be a defensive coordinator. We're hearing Chip Kelly wants to do the same and be an offensive coordinator and such. And you're hearing a lot of coaches talk about the NIL and the transfer portal and such. Could you, we talk about NIL and the players and, they're benefiting from that, but how big of an effect is this having on the coaching world? And could you see maybe the coaching product suffering a little bit at that college level?
Oh, I mean, you have some coaches who aren't happy having to be recruiting not just high schoolers, but their own players, and trying to keep a team together. So, I mean, the transfer portal, whatever is going on there, I mean, it's not the greatest situation going on.
Mm-hmm.
We're finding schools talking to players before they enter the transfer portal. We're finding people getting paid before they ever sign a scholarship offer. And I mean, you have, like we've experienced, quote unquote, agents going through and, really ruining stuff. And I understand it was meant to be, hey, once you're on campus enrolled, then you can start talking to boosters or the collectives or whatever the situation is at a specific school, and start doing that way. But then you can also go out and make money on your own, go out and do events and things like that. But it didn't turn out to be that way, mostly because people weren't told of any rules. And then when, lo and behold, we find out there are some, because there's people turning themselves in for violations. There's the NCAA saying Tennessee committed violations by paying kids before they even got on campus. We were told it's the Wild West, and now we're finding out there are some laws.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Do you see, I know, like, I think Miami, the U has this, I think Alonzo Highsmith is the guy, but could you see maybe even more teams employing that general manager role where, hey, maybe it's kind of like the pro game where the general manager goes out and finds the talent and all that sort, or does that even open up more cans of worms and even more of a Pandora's box at that point?
Well, I mean, you have your recruiting department, which, I mean, now Wisconsin's is much bigger than it was when it was zero.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's their job. Like, maybe the GM is, depending on your situation, I'm not even sure what the GM actually does outside of, I mean, if you're identifying potential talent, you're in the recruiting department. Like, call yourself the GM all you want. You're the recruiting coordinator. But So it'll be interesting to see what you have in terms of that. But I mean, the positions already should be there for most schools. And it's just a matter of identifying, you know, you shouldn't be contacting people before they get in the transfer portal, but, you know, finding your recruits once somebody enters the transfer portal, being able to identify if they fit your scheme offensively or defensively, and then being able to identify if they have interest in coming here, all while letting them know it better be interest in the program, and then we can talk about possible NIL deals once you commit and once you enroll in school here. But I, for the most part, it should be in play already.
Interesting, man. A lot of crazy stuff happening right now, dude. Let's switch over to the Badgers here. I'm actually going to lead off. Let's give a shout out to that Badger wrestling team there, RJ. I know you're big into wrestling here too. Top 25 team in the country. They had a good weekend this past weekend, but you know, we've been talking a lot about basketball and hockey, but let's give a little credit to that wrestling team that they got going down there in Madison.
Yeah, not doing so hot in the conference, but you know, it's one of the tougher conferences there is. But yeah, overall, they're now 2-2 in conference, I believe it should be right now. They took second at the Midlands, which is a pretty big tournament held by Northwestern every year. Yeah, and then they got actually coming up this Sunday, in advance of the Super Bowl at noon. They wrestle Illinois, and yeah, the tougher part of their schedule is coming up with at Minnesota and at Iowa to end their Big Ten duels, and then on the road at Northern Iowa as well before they get to the Big Tens and then the NCAAs. So yeah, season's winding down here. I believe over half the team or half the team, so 5 guys to 6 guys are all ranked right now, and yeah, going pretty well. But yeah, a lot more of the season left to go, and it's working towards the Big Tens coming up middle March, and then the NCAAs near the end of March.
I know. I think it was when he was first hired. You'd mentioned a good hire, and I don't know if you've been kind of following along, but I mean, state of Wisconsin right now for wrestling, at least in our area, you know, we got the Badgers, but UW-Eau Claire with Tim Fader, the job he's done, really turning around that program too. I mean, it's been remarkable to see the job he's done so far up here.
Yeah, everywhere Fader goes, success follows. So yeah, it was like when you asked about it, it was a great hire there, and yeah, it's going to be one of those. As long as he's there, success is just going to be there at the program there. And I mean, much like the Big Ten in the area, the WEAC is one of the premier conferences for D3 wrestling in the country, and so you got a lot of talent that stays in state here, and even at the D3 level, contributes to you know, Wisconsin's prowess of being a wrestling state. But maybe not on par with Iowa, but you know, you can at least put yourself in the same breath as Iowa, Ohio, and Pennsylvania for being a wrestling state in this country.
Absolutely. Basketball, men's basketball. So they dropped down to number 11 after a couple losses. You know, we talked about that, you know, Nebraska game and how well Nebraska plays at home. And it looked like the Wisconsin, you know, first half taking care of business. Then the second half, I don't know, RJ, you know, not to go too far back, but watching that second half of the Nebraska game, I got the impression that they almost reverted to the team last year, playing a little hero ball, a lot of isolation and such. Did you get that impression watching that second half against Nebraska?
It seems they went well away from the first half game plan, but then again, all your threes were falling in the first half. And yeah, it was just a tough one to watch. So you're looking at a game where it really just seemed to get away from them, and you held Nebraska in check in the first half, and then it just like the locker room flipped, and Nebraska started making every one of their shots. That masked guy, making step back threes and threes from the logo. And it became at some point where you're watching and you're just like, I can't be mad at this anymore. They just can't miss. So I still think there was a situation with about right around the under 12 in the first half that they never went back and looked at. But Nebraska had a 3-pointer where the guy's foot looked to be clearly on the line. Apparently it wasn't, and the two angles they showed where it was on the line weren't. And the game should have ended in regulation with Wisconsin winning by 1. But went to overtime and ended up ultimately losing with free throws, and Nebraska just getting there and finishing out the game at home. Still only have one loss at home this year, and that's to Creighton. But yeah, that was a tough second half to watch.
Yeah, and then flash forward to Purdue. I mean, they were grinding it out. It was close throughout there, but just didn't have enough to close it out against Purdue. Did you take anything at least positive from that loss against Purdue?
0 for 3 or 0 for whatever from 3-pointers in the second half. That's not going to help much. And I know I saw some people getting frustrated with the play under the hoop and attacking Edey, but I mean, there were times where Tyler Wall was kind of just dancing around Edey and making him look like he is just a 7'4" taking up space. And I mean, anytime you have a guy like that who can't cover anyone and just hangs out in the paint, and you tell me he's going to be successful in the NBA, I don't know who he's going to be able to cover in the NBA. It's one of those. College player, yeah, he worked out great. He's the kind of player who's perfect for the college game. I don't see him lasting too long in the NBA, though. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe 20, 30 years ago he would have, but in this day and age, especially when you have defensive lane violations and things like that, he doesn't move around the court too well. And it'll be interesting to see how his game is done at the pro level. But there's probably a reason why he came back for another year of college.
Yeah.
But overall, he's not the only one on that team. Like, that team is a solid team. It's just going to be interesting to see once they get to the NCAA tournament again, much like many of the Big Ten teams who play bully ball, and they still do, how those games will be called and if they can get out of the first weekend.
Yeah. I mean, you got Michigan and Rutgers coming up here for Wisconsin looking to bounce back. I was watching or listening to Field of 68, and they were talking about the Big Ten that was on Sunday night, and kind of said, when you look at the Big Ten, it's Purdue, then there's a gap, then it's Wisconsin and Illinois, and then a bigger gap with the other teams there. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I mean, your next 4 games are against the bottom 4 teams in the conference in Michigan, Rutgers, Ohio State, and Iowa. Your next real test should be when Illinois comes to town, but I mean, 4 of your next 6 are on the road too. So, I mean, the rack in Rutgers is no easy place to play. We've had pretty darn good teams go there and lose. So, it'll be interesting to see how these next 6 games before Illinois play out. And I mean, you're going to be favored in probably every game here, I think, except Purdue to close out the season. And just take care of business. Play the kind of game we know they can. We've seen them do throughout this season, and you should definitely be able to take care of the next 4. And then we'll see what happens with Maryland and Indiana before Illinois comes in to begin March. And hopefully you have a good rest of February here and get ready to move towards the Big Ten tournament and then March Madness.
Yeah. Before I let you go, we got to chat really quick on some hockey. The women's team over the weekend defeating St. Cloud State. First game 2-1 in overtime. Then coming back on Sunday and beating them 5-2. The men's team going up against Minnesota. Tight ones throughout the whole weekend. Friday's game, 1-2 loss in overtime. Skated to a 1-1 tie. I believe they won the shootout, though, on Saturday. So tight games all weekend long for both teams.
you picked up the extra point for the tie and an overtime loss. I mean, you get a point for that. But then you picked up an extra point for the shootout win as well. So you won the season series over Minnesota. But it's another one. You're 6 points behind, so a full series behind Michigan State right now. You're still the number 2 team in the conference. You got Notre Dame coming to town before you go on the road for 2 series, and then welcome Michigan State to end the conference schedule before moving into the Big Ten tournament. So and like we talked last week, you swept everybody but Michigan State in the first go around. So yeah, you got a target on your back now, and Notre Dame comes in. You got to take it to them. Ohio State right now only has 1 conference win in the in the Big Ten, so you got to go in and just dominate them at their home. And then Penn State, they have the ability to be real sharpshooters, but you have to match them in that intensity like you did when they came to town here, and you beat them 6-3, 4-1. You beat Ohio State 3-0, 6-1 in Madison. And when was Notre Dame? That was like shortly after the Christmas, I think. And then you swept them at home, and it wasn't really games that looked in doubt. So these next 3 series, as you go in, you should be pushing, because at some point Michigan State will have an off weekend here, so you can catch up on 6 points as long as you keep winning. And that final series will be for the regular season Big Ten title. But it's been a great turnaround. And we're hopefully looking for at least regular season Big Ten conference championship before heading into hosting a home playoff series.
Mm-hmm. Man, it's hard to believe that season's going to be kind of winding down here for both basketball and hockey. I mean, about a month left, less than a month left for some of these.
Mm-hmm. And then you're back into your spring sports, and I think women's tennis started, and they're ranked right now too.
Yeah.
So good on them. And good couple of sports going on here with rankings wise, at least.
Good to be a Badger. Yeah.
It is.
Good to be a Badger.
Never a bad time to be a Badger. But,
I love it. Hey, before I let you go, I got to put you on the celebrity board here in the studio. Who you got for the Super Bowl, Chiefs or 49ers?
I'll go with the 49ers. Stick with the NFC. No real other reason than that. That offense, I think as long as they don't abandon their run game, which they shouldn't, the 49ers could have the ability to run all over that Chiefs defense that wasn't the best throughout the season on stopping the run. So they have the talent there to kind of open things up. And not saying the Chiefs don't the other way, but I think a more complete team might be the Niners.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that as a question because both teams at times have looked like they can be world beaters, and then they go out and lay eggs. So it'll be. I think it'll be a good game. At least on paper, it looks like it should be, and I'll stick with the NFC and just go with the Niners.
All right, we'll put you up on the board there, big guy. Hey, appreciate the time as always, man. Enjoy the week, and let's catch up with you again next week, bud.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me. We will talk to you then.
You got it. RJ Cardinal, our man, breaking it all down for us here this morning. We got to take our final break here. Time for some picks and predicts, brought to you by the Elbow Room right here in Eau Claire. Bucks, Suns. Who you got? Let's make that pick after these quick words. It's time to make some picks and predicts. Brought to you by the Elbow Room in Eau Claire, located right next to Banbury Place. Looking for somewhere maybe to catch the game, big game on Sunday. You know that big game over there on Sunday. Head on over to the Elbow Room. They got man cave lights, especially if you're rooting for the Niners. Got a lot of 49er stuff up on the walls over there too, plus some green and gold stuff over there. But fun location over there to watch a ball game. So looking for somewhere on Sunday night to catch the action, head on over to the Elbow Room right here in Eau Claire. All right, we've got a few games of note. Let's do this Texas Tech versus Baylor college hoops games, a matchup of two top 25 teams. Texas Tech at number 23, Baylor at 13. Baylor favored by 5.5 in this game. Texas Tech is riding a 2-game losing streak here too. So, boy, I'm gonna go Baylor on this one. I feel like Texas Tech could come out and kind of make it a little bit surprise, but right now Baylor's offense to me is just it's a little bit better. So I'm gonna go with Baylor, and they're coming off that win against Iowa State as well. So I'm gonna go Baylor. I do think they cover, although I think it's a win by single digits. I think it's a win by single digits. Let's do a couple of NBA games coming at you. Let's go with the Battle of Florida, the Orlando Magic visiting the Miami Heat. We got Orlando sitting there at 27 and 23. Miami 26 and 24. Now Orlando's 12 and 16 on the road, but Miami is just 13 and 12 at home. You know what? Miami's favored by 2.5. Give me the Magic and Banchero over there. Come on. Banchero helping to get the Magic back to glory. Give me the Orlando Magic tonight. Why not? Shout out to my youth over there. Then finally, a late game 9 p.m. tip. You can catch this game at 105.1 FM and 790 AM. We got the Bucks wrapping up their road trip here, taking on the Phoenix Suns. Bucks 33 and 17, just 12 and 12 on the road, taking on the Suns, who are 29 and 21, 14 and 11 at home. The Suns are favored by 3.5. Bucks are just 1 and 3 right now on this road trip. That also coincides with the Doc Rivers era. Defense, I mean, I got to go to the Suns. It pains me to pick this, but I'm going to go with the Suns. I don't. KD, Booker. I know the Suns haven't been playing up to the expectations that they've had so far this year, but I'm going to go with the Suns right now just because I don't have a good feeling with where the Bucks are at this point. They're still trying to figure everything out, trying to incorporate a new system with Doc. So I hope the Bucks win. I hope they pick up a big win here. Hopefully they kind of, don't come out slow, kind of pick up where they left off against that game against Utah, where they only put up 13 in the fourth and allowed Utah to put up 40 in the fourth. I don't have a good feeling this one. I hate to do it, but I'm going to pick the Suns, and I think they cover tonight as well. So, I hate that, but hopefully they can kind of get back on track here once they get home and have a few games at home, starting with that big Thursday game against the Minnesota Timberwolves. All right. Let's kind of recap everything. We hit up a lot of Brewers talk here this morning. Brewers picking up another pitcher. Jacob Junis, 1-year deal that could be worth up to $7 million. He last pitched for the Giants last year, 4-3 with a 3.87 ERA. He's a guy kind of maybe like an Adrian Hauser, can give you some starts coming out of the bullpen. That flexibility there. Brewers also trading Ethan Small to the Giants in exchange for cash. Small was a first-round pick by the Brewers in the 2019 draft. So, but we talked a lot about Brewers, and with all the movement that's been going on in the last, couple weeks, couple months here Jackson Cheerio, Corbin Burns, Reese Hoskins. It's kind of been like, hey, you're pumped. Oh, crap. Hey, you're pumped. Oh, just kind of like that. And it seems like not all, but I would say a small majority kind of going into the season similar to how you maybe approach the Green Bay season. Not a whole lot of expectations. Want to see how the young guys do. But the excitement may have taken a hit, at least right now, and maybe it's just because it's still fresh. The excitement did take a little bit of a hit with the Corbin Burns trade. So, what else did we hit up? We talked about the little Packers there. Packers got a new defensive line coach, Vince Ogabase. Hopefully, I had to look up that pronunciation. He's coming over from Boston College to join the staff over there in Green Bay to be the new defensive line coach. Sounds like Packers will be filling in some other positions on that defensive coaching staff. We get, as we mentioned, the Bucs are in action tonight, taking on the Phoenix Suns. The trade deadline, 2 days away, coming up on Thursday. Time's running out. Will deadlines spur actions for the Bucs to make a move before Thursday's deadline comes to pass? We'll have to give up quite a bit if they want to make a big move. Bobby Portis is a popular name out there. Pat Connaughton. Maybe Campaign. Marjan Beauchamp. We'll see if the Bucs do make it. Sounds like from all the reports and the rumors out there that they're active. They're trying to find a trade partner. They're trying to find some moves. We'll see if that actually gets to play out. Homework assignment for tomorrow. Give me your stock reports, all right? Whose stock is rising and whose stock is falling. Think about that for a little bit. Hit us up on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line with a quick text. 715-830-1912. We'll also do another edition of the Business of Sports brought to you by Security Financial Bank tomorrow. So we'll hit that up at about 8:05. Stock reports will be right before that. All right, that's going to do it for us. Tip of the cap to you all for tuning in and participating. Appreciate that. DP and Adanitz, they're up next. Have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday. Let's do it again tomorrow morning, Wednesday morning, just past 6. I'll chat with you all then.